Namaste. So, as we know, the Upanishads are taken out from the knowledge portion of the Vedas primarily. The Vedas are a beautiful synthesis of works and knowledge, and worship, prayer, love. Though the highest mystery of love we find only when the avatar of the Dwapar comes and reveals it to us. The Upanishads take out the knowledge portion, the wisdom portions, and it touches upon some of the most important questions of existence. Sometimes there is a tendency to believe Upanishads are ancient scriptures. I personally feel that they are timeless scriptures. They as much relate to the present and also to the future because they provide for us the firm foundation on which any future life can be built. Without this firm foundation, whatever we build will be subject to collapse. So, Upanishads take up as the subject of their inquiry some of these most fundamental questions which are not taught in schools, not in colleges, nowhere. And this question is beautifully explained in one of the stories where Narad, who is the sage, celestial sage, who has mastered 64 types of learnings, vidyas, and he still cannot be completely at peace, and the joy within is missing. Something is missing. And he meets the sage Sanat Kumar, who asks him that, well, why do you look the way you look? And he says, see, so much I have learned, but to what avail? Still something is missing. Can you tell me what is missing? And the sage says, yes, they have taught you so many things. You have learned the 64 arts and sciences of life. Have you learned that knowing which all else can be known? So this is a new subject, never taught in school and college. So Narad says, no, what is that? And the sage reveals to him that is Brahma Gyan, Brahma Vidya. So in ancient India, there was highest importance given to this Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya, Brahma is a word, but essentially means the foundation on which the entire creation stands. So unless we know the foundation, we are standing on shaky, shifting grounds of consciousness. And therefore, this was the highest knowledge, and those who had this highest knowledge were the most revered. It was not somebody with a university degree. One may have a university degree and yet not have Brahma Vidya. For Brahma Vidya, one had to go to a realized master. That's how these schools, ashramas came up. And in the Upanishadic time, this is something very interesting. We don't see religions the way we understand today. Not at all organized religions. There is no head priest, there is no pope, and then cardinals and all. This paraphernalia is absent. Thank God. But what is present is that they were realized beings to whom people went, seekers went, and these realized beings transmitted this knowledge to them if they felt that the person is ready. So there is this, for example, this interesting story where some of these sages, they already know students who are seekers. They go to Rishi Pipalad, Prashna Upanishad, and they say that we want to know, we have these burning questions in our mind. What is this question? What is life? What is man? What is the goal? What is knowledge? All these kind of questions. Summarize, who is the godhead whom we must worship? Some say it is Agni, some say it is Vayu. So the Rishi, before even hearing the questions, he says, do one thing. I'll listen to your questions. But there is a condition. What is the condition? You stay in this ashram for 1 year and practice tapas and brahmacharya. Brahmacharya was purity of conduct, wherein one is focused on the eternal. That's what brahmacharya in short is. That action, that deed, thought, feelings which are connecting you to the eternal, and practice tapas. Tapas is concentrated energy of spiritual endeavor. So if after 1 year You ask your questions, and then the Rishi says, if I know them, I'll share it with you. Look at the humility of the master. If I know them, I'll share it with you. So, this was the way the Upanishads came into existence. Literally, it means two things: sitting at the feet of the master, or going into the heart of the inner knowledge, the true knowledge which exists within us. So, what are the main subjects that they take up? What do we need to synthesize? Today, we see a very divided existence. We are born and everything is separate. The only thing we know is mama, and apart from mama, the whole world is alien. That's why children around 5 months, 6 months, 9 months, they start experiencing stranger anxiety. They feel things are coming and they will vanish forever. So if the mama is away for a short while, they feel that the mama is gone forever. It's only when the mama comes, goes, after some time that they know that, okay, well, she goes and she comes back again. And as we grow up, we reinforce this divided existence by virtue of our, various badges that we wear, the badges of our surname, the badges of our education qualification, the badges of our position, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, or through the entire schooling process, we have forgotten who we are, why we have come. We have become like a machine who has to fulfill the dreams and ambitions of our parents, of society, and we have to fit into that mold. So, what we have forgotten is who we are and why we have come. This is something which we have forgotten. And it's here that Upanishads raise this question, some of the most fundamental questions. Who am I? And it answers in various ways. For instance, in Brihadaranyaka, it will say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am one with the great self. So, one of the greatest discoveries ever made in this universe, in this world, is that the Creator is one with the creation, is immanent within it. This discovery has momentous significances. The Creator is not somebody who is hanging up there in cloud nine, sitting there and governing this world in absentio. He is present. He is present in creation, in every element, every particle of creation. Look at the Ishopanishad starts like that. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything. Yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything that is an individual motion within the universe, in each atom of existence is there. Now today with this hyper practical McDonald culture where we want everything quick, what is the use of knowing all this? Let me first get my fill of money. Well, we'll have full pockets and an empty heart, full of fear, full of uncertainties, because we don't know this foundation that who am I? Obviously, if I am the body, this is a perishable thing. And if I am attached to the body, I will suffer. This doesn't require much reflection. But what about my personality? Well, even the personality is ever changing from morning till evening. We change so many times in our thoughts and feelings. What people see us and think that this is what we are is only a small fragment. And there is a vast space within with a whole jostle of thoughts, feelings, impulses arising from who knows where. So there is another Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad, starts with this question. What sets the thought on its errand to its mark? Look at the starting point. I don't know of any psychology textbook, I can say this as a psychiatrist because people often ask, sir, what textbook is good for studying psychology? So I don't use the word Indian or Western. I tell them because there is only one psychology and I'm proud to say Indian psychology. All the rest is just, ABC and maybe a strong word, but bogus humbug. So if you really want to understand psychology, read the Upanishads. Read the Mahabharata. That's where true psychology. Now imagine, where does thought originate from? Have we ever raised this question to ourselves? We think we flow in thoughts. And worse still, we say it's my thought. Where does thought come from? And we see the great Vakya of the Kena Upanishad, that it comes from a region beyond thought. What itself is thought? What is thought? Thought is a vibration. And if we look at the order in which it is described, it starts with speech, then it goes to the life, and then it goes to mind. and then it goes to that which is beyond the mind. So it traces the whole thing. And why is speech? Because speech is actually, what is speech? Speech is vibrations given a form. Whether you have this language or that language, it's the vibration. Where does the vibration originate? It originates in the heart. If we really see, it touches that point. Where does it come from? It comes from something high enough. And what happens as it comes down, it gets distorted within the human consciousness. Then it touches something within. Then it takes the form of word. Sound first and then word. So nature has devised all this apparatus, equipment. And what is the purpose of it? To express that which is beyond the mind. It's something so beautiful. It gives immediately a meaning and purpose to life. Why are we here? We are not here to become this or that. It could be this or that. It could be none of these things. Like that famous thing in Siddhartha, the novel Herman Hesse. He says, what do you know? So he says, I can think, I can meditate, I can eat. Or I can stay hungry, something like this. So this is something very interesting. That to understand thought, which is so important in our everyday life, the power of thought, the power of speech, all these suggestions are contained in one small Upanishad. And what does it tell us? That, thought itself comes from a region much beyond speech. The speech cannot utter it, the speech cannot reach there, the mind cannot know it, and yet it is not unknowable. It can be known. It can be known when you transcend thought. It explains this in very cryptic verses. So the whole idea was to go beyond thought, so that you can go to that core original vibration. And what does one meet when one tries to go beyond thought? Even the highest level that the mind can attain, you meet the Divine Mother. That's the first stir of creation, Uma Hempati. We have such a beautiful story, victory of the gods. Again, on where is the battle being fought? On whom do they get the victory? It's not like in television show where we see in Cloud 9 the battle is going on between gods and demons. Well, that's true of the cosmic existence, but the gods are equally engaged in the battle within us. What happens when they win? When they win, it means a human being is capable of godlike functions. His speech assumes a godlike function. His mind and thoughts assume a godlike inpourings of knowledge and wisdom. It means that his feelings are different. They are changed. His very nervous system, his very senses are quickened. They undergo a kind of transmutation. So this is how the gods attain a victory. But they mustn't forget that this victory is not for them. See, this is the difference between Greek thought and Indian thought. In Greek thought, there is a kind of, all these gods are there. And these gods are, busy building man. So the same concept of sacrifice is there, where man sacrifices to the gods and the gods increase through the human sacrifice, and in turn, they give a return gift to man. Now, this is very interesting, because we give to the gods what we have, and the gods give to us what they can give. So, and we grow. But this growth is not just so that, we become a vibhuti of one god or one aspect of the divine. This is something very interesting. Upanishads bring this new dimension, which we find missing in the Greek, pagan thought, where you have many gods. But where do these gods come from? So it reveals to us that they are the various powers of the eternal. And these powers are at once beings, cosmic energies, cosmic forces. They are working everywhere in creation. Wherever there is this task of preservation, even if we look in the atom, so in atom we have all these three things. There is the creation, the birth of the electron. It would be something very interesting to study as a phenomena. Then the atom the balance has to be maintained. So we have the static energy, we have the kinetic energy, and we have this, something which keeps disintegrating and recreating itself. So all Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh are active in the atom, not only there, everywhere. But the focus of the Upanishads is primarily within man. So man, because he is a part creator, so that's how the whole thing starts. And then we understand the power of word and speech, because Brahma creates this universe by word. So speech can be creative. How it can be creative? Very simple. Leave aside the philosophical speculation. What happens when we speak? We are describing a scene. Supposing I describe that, samadhi is like this. And so what am I doing in the mind of the listener? I am creating an image. Speech is creative. We didn't know this. That speech creates. Speech destroys. What a powerful. Why speech? Even sound can create and sound can destroy. So the Upanishads speak of the primal sound, meditating upon which one can realize the eternal. What is that sound? We see in the Mandukya Upanishad, Shvetashvatar Upanishad, when they speak about the path, what is it on which we must meditate upon? It says we must meditate upon Om. Can there be anything more secular? Whoever said that Om is not secular? Om is something which is the most universal. And what is Om? It's a vibration, it's a stir. But it's not just a stir, it's the original stir of creation. It's puja with the all-creating consciousness of the divine. Mother said so beautifully, it's the signature of the Lord. And then they reconcile. So Om has created this whole universe. So if we can really get at that, now there are two ways of getting at that, and that again we see in these two different Upanishads. One is where we meditate upon the three syllables of the Om, then the three texts of the Vedas, Yajurveda, Samveda, Rig Veda. But other is where we experience the Supreme in His totality. And this was the whole idea of the Upanishads, that how to reconcile the Creator with creation. So one way it is reconciled is that Creator has entered into creation first with the agency of the gods who are cosmic powers, and taking hold of the gods, zigzag of the gods, like we see in the Vedas, we can arrive at the Supreme. Cosmic gods. We have Indra, we have Vayu, we have Agni, we have Rudra, and each of these gods have specific functions. But there is another way. And the other way is that the divine is not only entered into creation through the gods, He has become immanent into creation. So this also we find everywhere. He is dwelling inside as the indwelling universal. He is the self of every creature. But it is given to man to discover this self within which is one with the universal self. If at all the world will ever discover a way to have true brotherhood, it will not be on the basis of those religions which declare that if you follow my God, then you are a brother. If not, you are an infidel worthy of being killed. This is just impossible if anyone is trying it. Nor can it be done on the basis of an ideology which declares man is a social animal and therefore we are all equal. Worst of all, it can be created by this extreme materialistic thought that sabka khoon ek hai. By the way, nahi hai. Even biologically, there are 4 blood group types. That's a different thing altogether. Everything in nature represents something or the other. But there is the basis of oneness which is within us. And that's the subject of the Upanishad. There is the source, the origin. And that is within us. And it's not only within us, it's in all existence. If we discover it, we go beyond all divide between religious and secular. We discover that one self which is in all beings. It's not only in me, it's not only in religious people, it's even in the atheist. It's even in those who are seemingly contradicting the divine plan. That's what Sri Aurobindo sees. Vasudevam Sarvamiti, where he sees that not only in the lawyer who is speaking on his behalf, but even in the lawyer who is trying to convict Sri Aurobindo. So Shri Krishna reveals to him, look here, I am everywhere and in everything. And how does it work? He fulfills a grand purpose. There is a grand narrative, a greater plan than our little life. So how are we to find that? This greater self. This too the Upanishads declare us so beautifully. For instance, one thing which is very clear if we read the Upanishads is that if we make the transient things as the object of our life, as our aim, we can forget about this great self. It stands behind. It is the master. This game is a shadow game. But if this is what we want, in all the Upanishads, this is a common theme. That if, particularly in the Kena Upanishads, comes very boldly. Yan mansana manute yenahur manomatang tadev brahmantam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. If you are doing upasana, worshipping these transient objects, you can worship the politicians, the policeman, the lawyer, the doctor, and maybe they will be happy or not happy. I don't know about politicians and policemen. Very dangerous to have friendship or enmity with them. Doctors, yes, are decent people at least, hopefully. Lawyers also are okay. But the point is, and priest, of course. So all these people, priest also nowadays, you need to have a priest on your list because, he's very helpful in conducting all the affairs. So this is one approach. We may go even to God. We can go to a chapel. We can go to a church. We can go to a mosque. We can go to a temple. Doesn't matter. But if we go there with the object of wanting transient things, then our life will be full of suffering. This is a great declaration of the Upanishad. Want to be cured of suffering? Okay, go to a psychiatrist. He will analyze you till you forget who you are, why you came. After some time, dawai de dijiye prescription, because that's how life is. That's the teaching in the Western world that, it's all either chemicals in the brain or a very complicated analysis of your life, whereas life is very, very simple, straight, direct. And that simple, straight, direct answer is the one. Find the one. If you don't find the one, take medicine, do everything. It will be temporary remedy. If we are attached to transient things, we will be prone to suffering. There is a very beautiful letter of Sri Aurobindo. He says, people say, oh, somebody is suffering because of karma, because somebody did a bad thing, etc., etc. This good, bad. Upanishad takes us beyond the righteous and the unrighteous, as one of the Upanishad puts it. It takes us way beyond that. So why do we then suffer? Is it because I am a bad guy? Because God is angry with me? No, he says, blows do not fall only on you. They come to all human beings, because they are attached to things that are in their very nature transient. And they cannot last. So at some point, suffering is bound to come. Even when the object is there, the thing which we desired through that object will not last. That's what happens. All stories in Indian cinemas used to begin with, two people falling in love, romance, not love actually, at getting attracted to each other, and the story would end with marriage, probably with a tagline, and they lived happily married ever after, so that people can nurture a dream. But the secret of happy marriage is not this bond to the body. It's not based on a human personality. It's not based on speech. It's not even based on duty. Duty can be very insipid. After some time, one is unhappy but says, okay, this is social. It's based on something much deeper. And that deeper bond can only be that the self in she and the self in me are one. And even though it's the same self in the whole universe, this has arranged, as life has arranged me, that we come together as very beautifully, Yagnvalkya, the author of the Isha Upanishad, he describes, one does not love the wife for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of the self. One does not love the child for the sake of the child, but for the sake of the self. One does not love the country for the sake of the country, but for the sake of the self. We could multiply. One does not love the job for the sake of the job, but for the sake of the self. But what it means is, as is our self, so is the life and its quality we lead. If the self is small, ego self, haunted by desires, then life will be a perpetual nightmare with some sweet dream messages. Like people send a message, text them, sweet dreams, and the fellow has a nightmare the whole night. So, I wish it was as simple as that, sweet dreams and you have a beautiful dream. Life moves between these because we have not found the real key. So, when we base a relationship based on that, see, they are giving us the secret. A relationship based on the bodily self, a relationship based on just the intellectual self, on the mental personality, on temporary personality, worst of all on wealth and whether you are an NRI and what's your bank balance is the worst kind of relationship. It won't last beyond a day, I can tell you. Because if somebody is eyeing on your ATM card and the man on the physical looks, then be sure that sooner or later wrinkles will catch up. The sweet voice will turn into a harsh voice, depending on the situation and circumstance, and life will go for a six. But when we root it in the depths of the oneself, then one loves the wife because she too is a manifestation of the same oneself. Then all these things about caste creed become so much in the background. All these outer distinction. What is important is the oneself. And therefore one loves the person not because of one's own little egoistic interest, but because she is none else but myself in another body. This is the great realization. And see the practical implications of this. But the Upanishads, so this is in practice. It's not just an inner meditation. Of course, it speaks about inner meditation, that there are the doors through which the self gazes outwards. It very beautifully, in fact, describes as a cryptic question. We often speak about the Sphinx. See the well-known story of the Sphinx. Who is that creature who walks on, four legs in the morning and two legs in the afternoon and three in the night? Man. And this we all know. Upanishad asks this question in a very, very wonderful way and gives the answer which is most beautiful. The question is, who is that who has 16 parts? Somebody with 16 members. Now, Brahma is described as having 16 members, but it is equally man with his 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, and 5 Mahabhuts and the self. So it is man. So it declares. Now look at the image. What does it say? Man, at the same time it describes not the physical function that he crawls and walks on 2 and is on a stick on 3, but describes what is the totality of man. But also declares very boldly, and Sri Aurobindo emphasizes upon this in a whole writing, that such was the potential of man that the Upanishadic rishis saw, that they declare, he is that Purusha, he and I are one. So we see the 16 members, which is Brahma, and the 16 members, which is man. He is one with the Creator. Man is in fact a part creator. Knowingly, unknowingly, he may pass the blame to the Creator, but he is given faculties, he is given capacities, even his imagination. If we look at this world, he is a part creator, artisan of his fate. Now, the moment we understand this, now that is true empowerment. Empowerment is not about giving a position and a big job and money, and worst of all, that if you get converted, I'll give you money. This is not empowerment, this is empowerishment. You are pauperizing people of their energies. What is empowerment? You are the creator of your fate. How can we do that, sir? Discover the Creator within you. Who is the Creator, sir? He is not just cut away and aloof from you. He is immanent in the entire universe. It is He who shines in the stars, in the sun. It is He who is resplendent and sweet and, in the night, dripping with soma. It is He who points the paths as the stars. It is He who walks near you, in the crippled and the beautiful. It is He who babbles in the child and utters the words of wisdom in the sage. Okay, so what shall I do? He says still further, He is in you. He is you. What a reassuring thing. And what profound practical implication. At least I have found this extremely liberating and extremely practical. Whenever I have experienced distress in life, all that I remind myself is the Divine Mother is with me and she is in me. I am a portion of her. And I have seen magics. Miracles happen. Miracles of the most, you don't have to believe in somebody sitting out there and saying, hallelujah. No. You don't have to go anywhere. Even in that circumstance, when there is dense darkness, you can't find a way. All that is needed is not to keep on, I can't find a way, I don't know what will happen, how it will happen. That's the usual way. What it does is it increases the difficulties because we are giving too much attention to the problem. Probably we are anticipating a future which may never happen. Worse still when you have half-baked counsels. एक friend को phone लगा लेते हैं, phone a friend. So you talk to, yeah, I am having this problem. Now, friend has gone through, if you say, I'm having a problem relationship. Now, the friend is very unhappy with his wife or husband. He says, chhod do, divorce. Simplest solution. Why? Because friend has gone through this. Or it could be the other way. It may work either ways. Because friend is living in ignorance. What will he counsel? So what does the Upanishad tell us? Don't worry about this, that, 100 things in life. Focus on one thing, and that is the eternal. Don't focus on the transient. Sir, will it solve my problem? That is the only thing which will solve your problem. Because he is not just a impartial witness to our joys and bale. He is also the awakening ray that touches this soil and brings everything to beauty and takes it towards perfection. Tasmin napo matarisva dadhati. He is the origin of all these streams and currents of life that flow into creation. He is the breath of our breath. See, so many practices come out of it. By breath, we can control the mind. Through the breath, we can ascend. Why? This breath is only an outer manifestation of the universal prana. And what is this universal prana? It is the Shakti which is dancing in this creation. Who am I? My breath, my life. It's a portion of that breath. And when we remember it, that my life is nothing but one wave of that infinite Shakti. Is the wave different from the ocean? It is not. It's one mode of expression of the ocean. It automatically gives us the clue how to connect oneness and multiplicity. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. The one desired to become many. So what is the way to find him? Tamatmastham, Kathopanishad. Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira. Stesham sukham shashvati netresham. Be patient. It's a long journey, but strive to find the one. When you find, then life is beautiful. Be patient. It's a long journey. So, but what do we see? All these limited forms? It is he who has become. Agniri yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto. It enters. How this world is built by Agni, the energy which has gone into baking forms at every level. So he Jat Vedas, he knows all the forms. And then these forms are animated by the breath of life as the force that governs them. And then, of course, Indra comes as the power of mind. But this is a small little mold. It has a greater destiny. The gods are hidden inside. That's what the Upanishad will tell us. All the gods, when they saw the human form, they said, this is wonderful. So they plunged and they are working within us to awaken us, take us to that great Godhead from whom we have emerged. How should we live our life? There is a beautiful image. Or even before that, where is he to be found? He is within us, but where? In the head. That's what we all think, everything is in the head. Head, yes, contains something, but you have to open the head to find that something. But he is still closer. Closest in us is the heart. That's why whenever a person says, who am I? So the instinctively the hand goes, I am. I am this so and so. Nobody says, I am this. If you do this, then people think you are cursing your fate. Nobody points at the stomach and says, I am this. Not even the sumo wrestlers who derive all their energy from the abdomen. Who are you? I am Mr. So-and-so. First I am, then Mr. So-and-so. And who is this I? This is within the heart. So it says, focus into the heart. When young Nachiketa, look at what kind of, I feel so happy and proud that, I inherit that quest where children were asking questions and they are reprimanding his father. Today we are having those children now come, many Nachiketas in, so many homes. Dad, if it was modern context, Dad, you are giving the cows and all this to the different gods. Don't you see that you are giving all these cows which are lost their, functions? They can't give milk. You are giving that kind of stuff. Is this really a good thing to do? And the father gets angry. He says, he's quiet, controlling his anger, he's performing a sacrifice. But child, see, it's also a parallel between the old self and the child is the soul in man. So he says, okay, whom are you giving to me? It's a very symbolic story also. I give you to death. Okay, father, I see you then. Goes to death. And there he asks the secret. There again we have the same secret. So death comes and says, I'll give you plenty of things. What do you want in life? I'll make you the president of America. He said, my God, that you don't make me. I'll prefer a common man in India. That is the worst thing to become. You are Mr. Nobody and everybody only on paper. But you're the most powerless fellow, you know. So, sir, what do you want? I'll give you army and women and happiness, wealth, everything. And the choice, look at how it explains choices. We often, say we have to make a choice. Choose between this and that. I had during my FMC, after FMC, when we went for the post-graduation exam in FMC. So one of our fellow mates, he was sitting with all complex, So he says, I asked him, Kya ho gaya tujhe? Why are you looking so? He said, I don't know what to choose. I said, means, he said, I have a choice between both are good subjects. What do I choose? I said, you don't know what you want in life? Just because you have got two subjects, therefore you are making a choice. Your choice could be something which may not be seemingly the good subject, and yet it may be your choice. At least my choice was based on that. I was getting all the subject, but I said, no, I want psychiatry. Ignorantly believing that psychiatry and yoga will go together. The first thing I was told, if you want to be in the department, don't talk about yoga, God and all these things. I said, okay. Always naughty fellow. I said, okay, I'll not talk. So I put my thesis as effect of yoga on smokers. She said, why are you doing this? I said, thesis. Okay, but I don't know anything about yoga. My guide told me. I said, sir, don't worry. That part I'll collect. Data you will collect, yes. Of course, by yoga they meant asana. But I said, I have got a chance to enter into. So this is the kind of education. The Upanishad calls it the lower knowledge. If you read the, Mundak Upanishad, this is the lower knowledge. Even the subject of the three Vedas is the lower knowledge. Meaning thereby there is an essence. It's not that the Vedas themselves are lower knowledge. But if we can study them as a lower knowledge, we can just read them outwardly, superficial meanings, turn it into a karma kand, ritualistic understanding. But within it, the kernel is the higher knowledge. And that's what the Upanishad tried to bring out. What is that higher knowledge which is hidden inside the Vedas? But of course, it was at a big price. That's a different thing altogether. The price was that we lost a certain degree of integrality, which we find in the Vedas. Over a period of time, when monism took over and, illusionism took over and we lost the real meaning of the Vedas. But not originally. Originally, they are very much world-affirming, life-affirming. Kurvan nevehe karmani. Live for 100 years doing verily works in the world. This is the affirmation. The doubters and those who live in gloom, depressed, they go to sunless worlds of gloom. They come to perdition and live with this great truth that all this is none else but the one, expressing himself in countless ways. So that's the great power. So Nachiketa is given this choice. Nachiketa knows what he wants. This is the sign. This, in one word, sincerity. You have the entire world. See, this is the difference between asuras and devas, or human beings who are truly doing tapasya. Devas don't do tapasya. Asuras have to do tapasya because they need to get converted. Human beings engage in tapasya because they have to go, their abode is the highest. So Nachiketa is asked, make your choice. You have on one side all the great things in the world, and on the other side, the one self. That truth. He says, I want that self, the immortal. Why he wants the immortal? Not so that he can shun it, because then only all the rest is value. And that's what is revealed by the next thing that Yama says. Because he says, all that you are going to give me is perishable product. Now, based on this, we can derive a meaning that's all about transientness of the world and permanent, seek him beyond. But the action that Yama does next is something very interesting. He takes a necklace and gives it to Nachiketa. He says, this I am giving you gratis. He didn't ask for the necklace. He said, I am giving you gratis because you have chosen wisely. Now, what is this necklace? Many beads, its nature with it, all its many, many forces and powers. He who finds the self finds everything. Yasmin vigyate vigyati sarvam. Knowing the self, we can know everything. It is the root of all knowledge, seed of all knowledge. And we can equally say when we discover that power, that glory within, then there is nothing which is impossible or within the reach of man. That's how these great rishis, when we read about their stories, they could create such things. I mean, an annex of a heaven Vishwamitra creates for Trishanku. Okay, gods are not allowing you admittance. They have a point, I see. But I am also Vishwamitra, no less than the gods. I'll create a heaven for you. So he creates an annex by the power of thought. It can be done. What does it mean? People say, oh, this is a fantastic story. It's an everyday life story. By the power of tapas, we can create an atmosphere for ourselves. Even in heaven, by just the power of thought, by tapas, and we can live in that even when everything outside is, dark and opposite. That's what it means. Vishwamitra did it through ultimately taking his tapas to a level where even probably after death or with the body, he could dwell. But that's the secret of this story. That we can create, we are part creators, but instead of taking help from Vishwamitra, we ourselves can create. In fact, we create hell, we create heaven. So this is where we have these wonderful tales, and then it gives the path that he is hidden in the heart. Repeatedly it comes. This is Aditi. You want immortality? Because he wants the secret of immortality. And look at how Upanishad places man above the gods. Gods know it not. Gods cannot catch him. He is ever faster. That's how the Ish Upanishad says. Gods know him not. Kain Upanishad. Kat Upanishad. Gods do not know this secret. Everywhere, gods have a work. But there is a secret, the greatest secret, which only human beings can attain. Why they can attain? Because they carry within them Angusht Matra Purusha. Antaha Sharire Jyotirmayo hi Shubhra. Vidyante Hridgranthi Chidyanti Sarva Sansaya. When the heart strings are rent asunder, then we discover the self. And then we understand not only the great mystery, but what is this work, what is this body. So it gives a very interesting image. And the image is of Rath. We see that famous image in, Sri Aurobindo's, that Karma Yogi, this Rath with Shri Krishna and Arjuna. This is an image imprinted in the human mind, and even if we were to forget all else, this image is so deeply imprinted. The only image I remember when I had read the Gita, this image, Shri Krishna, Arjuna, he is holding the reins. What a beautiful image it is. There are these senses which carry us here and there, but somebody has to rein the senses. The senses are the horses. The mind is the rein. But rein has to be held by someone. Mind was always regarded as the sixth sense and the sixth, faculty of action. So it was the sixth. In fact, in a certain sense, the 11th. If we look at the five senses and the five powers of action, panch karmendriya, then it's the 11th sense. So, what is it to be held by? The buddhi. So where will the buddhi know what it must do? It must open to a still greater self. Then it will know. Otherwise, buddhi is there in everybody, but it's durbuddhi. It is used to justify oneself. Everybody has some buddhi or the other. Man needs to justify himself. This is unique about man. Tiger doesn't. You ask a tiger, why you killed the deer? He'll say, I was hungry. Don't you think you have done something bad? He'll say, okay, you will wait here for one more day, I'm going to kill you. That's all. Because tiger is not given that. He is driven by the sense. It's an animal life, asanna mrityu. But man has all these things. So, the body is the rath. Where will your body go? Where will the bodily life? Secret of healthy living. Forget about cholesterol, blood sugar and all these things. And actually, why does all this happen? Today we are talking about environment and man is polluting, doing this. What is the source of it? One word, greed. Where is greed? Where does it reside? In what space? Within our subjective spaces. So the senses to be controlled by the mind, mind by the buddhi, buddhi by the greater self, and greater than the greater self is that. So this was the way they built a wonderful bridge between the unknowable and that which is the object of the senses. The Gita will use this image later on to make it so clear. So this way they bridged the material world and the supreme, the creator and creation. But not forgetting, last but not the least, so this bridge in creation is by the gods who has created all this material world. They are functioning everywhere. They are there in the great halls of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So everything, or the Purusha who has sacrificed himself and become all this. But at the same time, there is another bridge. One is these cosmic forces. There is another bridge, and that is the individual human being. It is given to man to become a bridge between the Supreme Self and this creation. He is the bridge between the Creator and the creation. Therefore, he has a deed to do. And that deed is, even as the gods are engaged in upgrading this creation further and further, taking it higher and higher. First Agni, matter, then Vayu, living beings, then Indra, the mind leading right up to that. Similarly, man can, by discovering this great self within, he can allow it. Now, this is not exactly stated in so many words, but it is implicit in the thought of the Upanishad. If he is one with the Creator, if he knows that he dwells in all beings, he should wish to lead a life of 100 years doing verily works in the world. Whose works? There is only one doer. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kinchi jagatyam jagat. So why will he work? He won't have tena tyakten bhunjita. He should not desire, desireless action. Sir, you are taking the joy away from me. No, then you will experience delight. What does the Upanishad declares? What is the nature of God? You see how different it is. Semitic conception of God. Sitting somebody's stern judge with a carrot in one hand and a rod in the other. And the carrot and the rod are at the mercy of what religion you have accepted, formally or informally. This is the judge we have painted. He will wait when he will raise the dead and send them to heaven or eternal damnation. What is the God of the Upanishad? Raso Vaisaha. Verily he is delight. And how beautifully step by step it unveils the mystery. The disciple asked the master, tell me about how it describes different things. Cut a seed, eventually what is inside? He says, I see nothing. That is consciousness. You don't see it. Because of it, the seeds and the genes are all functioning the way they should function. They don't go crazy. They don't go berserk. It's not accident and randomness. There is a consciousness which is weaving this whole universe. And this consciousness has emerged from that great being. I don't want to use the image of the Upanishad, but it's like from the spider. The web is also created by him. And in that web, through that web, as a ladder of consciousness, we must climb up. And again, another kind of integration it brings. Through states of consciousness, at its origin, the Supreme Self. It is he who becomes the dream self. So he's not just that ultimate state, Turiya. He's also that sleep self. Where now what is the sleep self? It is from that ultimate mystery, something has entered, is taken out, held within that ultimate pragya, wisdom, before starts manifesting. Then there is the dream self, Swapnavastha, in which all that was held, a selection of it enters into the Hiranyagarbha, that shining golden Purusha. It takes all this, keeps in his womb, and out of that, something will enter into the waking outer consciousness, the Virat. So beautifully, it's from there. Even in our individual life, one particular life is only a small selection of much that is held back within. Ask a person, He will tell, I dream of this, I wanted this, I wanted. But eventually there is one small selection which is taken out to experience. A vast truth is held back within. And usually it takes long through the cycle of births in ignorance. But if we discover this, we move on evolution fast forward. The unrealized dreams, all that begins to express, manifest. What is no more necessary is taken away. So this is how the whole evolutionary journey goes fast track. So when we discover this self within, we discover the basis of unity. Not by joining this and that on a common platform through an interfaith dialogue, not at all. But by discovering that behind all faiths, even the most absurd thing, if we may say so, faith that there is no God, even that is a faith. Because one has not really made a search. So it is a faith. When somebody says, I don't believe in God. Yes, that's your belief. Keep it with you if it helps you. Is there no hope for me? No, God is there. He will show himself to you. How he will show himself as nihil, who is nothing. Why? Because that's what you believe in. It's a logical answer. The Gita will make it more explicit. As is men's faith, so yo yatha mam prapadyante. So this is how it reveals all the mysteries of life. So faith is so important. Satya, practice is so important. Why? Because Satyameva jayate nanitam satyene pantha vitato devyana. The gods have laid down the path based on truth. It's not about truth based on my court case truth. This is a world of falsehood. Truth means first seat of truth is here in the depth of the heart. To start with who I am, I must know clearly. Then what is the choice of the soul? That is the next. This is the truth. And when we take this as the truth, then at the end, Satyamev Jayate Nanitam. There is no falsehood which can ever stand ultimately in the journey of the soul. Through 1,000 battles, it will still be victorious because such is the way that the gods have laid out for man. So these are some of the, as I said, it's a very vast subject, but essentially it is integrating material life and the spiritual. There is a whole image, now you see that image comes to me, where you have the spirit as the male and the Prashna Upanishad, where and the earth principle of matter is the female. So you have, the union of spirit and matter, and the whole Upanishad goes into entire, and it goes up to revealing the secret of reproduction. I mean, you can draw all these things from there. So the masculine and the feminine principles and their union which creation seeks. Later on the Purana gives the image in the Shivlingam, the union of Shiva and Shakti, and in Ramayana story, the union of Rama and Sita. But they saw in matter the possibility of union with the spirit, and matter as a condition for manifestation of the spirit. Where is the otherworldly approach where matter has to be rejected? When the great Upanishad declares that matter is a condition for the manifestation of the spirit, it is the one which breathes life into the spirit through all these various gods. So these are some of the thoughts in the Upanishads. So beautiful, so powerful. Even one of them can rescue mankind and give us the basis of unity, not only between human beings and different religion. That's a very small thing, but unity with all creatures. Yastu sarvani bhutani atme vabhud vijanata. He who knows all the becomings as the one self. It is the one self which has become all this. He is not just present in all of them. Of course he is present. I'll close with one of these letters of Sri Aurobindo when he was asked in 1916. So why 1916 is important? Because the mother had not yet come finally. So he was asked, what is the best idea to meditate upon? Then after an initial explanation, he says, well, if you ask me, the best idea to meditate upon is the one given in the Isha Upanishad, which he himself, was practicing in the Alipur jail. And what is that? That the divine is in all beings are in the divine, and all is the divine. Before I leave, I must say, just try practicing it for 10 minutes. That all these trees, human beings, objects, all of them are none else but the Divine Mother who has assumed these forms. It not only liberates us, but fills us with a deep compassion and love than what our human heart and mind can ever know. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Arvindaya.
Prakash Nairji.
Thank you, sir. Very wonderful session. One question was, you said the difference between Greek thought and the Indian thought. I didn't really get that. How was that?
Difference between the
Greek thought and the Indian thought.
So Greek thought also believes in multiplicity of gods. And if you look at the gods, they are very much like the Puranic gods. And they also had the idea of sacrifice, wherein, of course, later on it became sacrificing the, just like in Indian thought, because we are primarily vegetarians, it's Gritam. So they had the calf, the best, piece of meat to be sacrificed, put in the fire. So there are a lot of similarities between Greek thought and Indian thought in terms of the gods and their functions. What is missing is the one God in whom all are united. So that is the beauty of it. That's why people who are exposed to the Greek thought and the ancient pagan thought cannot understand Indian thought. They think we are same as pagan and we believe in many gods. Because they miss out on this fundamental truth that all the gods are nothing else but the expressions of powers of the one. This is missing. This is a very crucial element. So in Greek thought, there were Greek philosophers who, spoke about the inner demon and things like that. But this overarching formula of wisdom, that is missing in the Greek thought. Otherwise, many things are there which are similar. They believed in passage through the different worlds after death. We call it Baitarni, they called it Styx, and somebody will come, the boatman will take you. So all these things are there. The burning, the Daha Sanskar, but they miss out on the one. And that's the beauty of the Upanishad, that it brings into bold relief the presence of the Supreme within man. And man can directly come in contact with him. He can even bypass the gods, so to say. Though the gods will not bypass him by the very fact that he will aspire to become one with the Supreme, they are there to help man and arrive at that great consummation. So this is the difference between the Greek thought and Indian thought. In fact, in general, in many of the pagan thoughts, which pagan thought, by the way, is very nice. I don't look at it depreciatory way as the modern monistic, they're worshipping in gods. Well, it means that everything is sacred. That's something very beautiful about paganism. The river is sacred, the mountain is sacred. This is there very much in Indian thought, and it's so beautiful. There are these gods who are behind everything as powers and aspects of the eternal, which is beautiful. The worst thing that ever happened to the Western world was they destroyed paganism. And they lost contact with the truth behind nature. But in Indian thought, this is not exactly paganism, because we do believe that all these gods are from the one. And that one is beyond them. So he's not just that they are different aspects. He's beyond them, so the gods cannot catch him. That's where we find in, the Ish Upanishad that he is far, near, within, outside. And yet if you try to catch him, you cannot catch him. Same thing in the Ken Upanishad, that you cannot catch him. So though the gods are powers and aspects of the one, yet the one transcends them. So gods belong to the cosmic domain, and the one transcends them, and then this is the individual. This is the trilogy of the Upanishads, which we find missing in Greek thought. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I wanted to. You mentioned about the presence of Angushtamatra, presence of the Chaitya Purusha, or the psychic being. And if I heard you correctly, or maybe please correct me if I'm wrong, that the gods don't have it. Now, can you just explain this? Because I have read somewhere in what Sri Aurobindo or the mother have written, that only human beings have the Chaitya, have the psychic being. Now, is it present in other things like other animals or plants and stones and gods and asuras? May I just know a little more about
So
it?
we can look upon psychic being, of course, comes at the end of a long journey, but we can look upon it as the soul, as an evolutionary principle. in creation. So that as an evolutionary principle, it is found only upon earth. That's how the mother puts it. The Kathopanishad hints at it. Because when he asks, Nachiketa says, I want the secret of immortality, he says, you are asking something which even the gods don't know. So to that extent, yes, it hints that it is not, the gods are not privy to this truth, which resides in the heart of man. And it gives different names. Aditi, you can meditate upon the Divine Mother here. Aditi, the undivided consciousness, if you take it literally. Or you can, meditate upon this Angushtmat Purusha, which resides in the heart of man. And later, another Upanishad, Svetashvatar, which speaks about when you tear the heart, strings are cut asunder, then all doubts vanish. So all this is given to man, because now what happens before that? There is an evolutionary principle, both as the cosmic evolutionary energy, which is the divine will in creation. So it is there in matter. So the entire Kundalini is about, this divine will awakening. It's there in the story in the Rig Vedas, Brahmajaya, but, all that is a long story. So just cut it short that there is the cosmic evolutionary principle which, assisted by the gods, as we see in the story, is taking things step by step. Out of matter, life emerges. Out of life, mind emerges. But there is also the individual evolutionary principle as the soul, which is a spark of the divine. And this too progresses. So, we have that image of the two birds, Dva Suparna. One who is eating the sweet bitter fruits and the other who is watching. So there is within us something which eats the sweet bitter fruits, and yet it grows, keeps looking towards that ascension towards which it must go. So this soul element is the one which passes through the gates of death and birth. See what powerful thing, that rebirth is for evolution. Mrityum tirtva, vidyam amritam asnute. You enjoy immortality by birth, but passing through the gates of death, you destroy avidya. You go through all these different states, you go through death, and every time it comes, it evolves. So the soul is the evolutionary principle in human beings. Before human beings, this evolution is all happening by the agencies of the cosmic powers, the gods. So it's there even in, animals. But in animals, it's not an individual soul, it's the soul of the species. So it governs that species. But in human beings, there are these sparks which are ready now from the animal consciousness to jump into man. Now, the moment it enters man, it enters, not immediately, but maybe after a few births, into a stage where it can consciously evolve. That's where it, people start seeking for yoga. That's where we all, come together to know the Upanishads, when today, people must be doing Holika Bhang party. So this itself is an indication that something else within us, which seeks the real Bhang, not this, but the real Somaras, the divine, Rasovesaha. So it is this which emerges. So as it grows, eventually it becomes a conscious psychic being, which means it becomes not only just an immortal spark within, but a conscious, immortal individuality, the true individuality, with a psychic personality. So now the image which started with the fire and the spark changes into the world mother, in whose lap this child is sitting. This is Holika in reverse. Not that Holika which wants to destroy Prahlad, but the Divine Mother holds the child in her lap. Ultimately, it started with the fire, the divine energy in matter, and that little spark. Spark is one with the fire, but it's also, separate many of them. But in human beings, it can arrive at that point where we discover ourselves as part and parcel, portion of the Divine Mother sitting in her lap, right in the center of the heart. So there is Aditi, there is the, the Angusht Matra Purusha, the Chaitya Purusha. And as a nave in a wheel, spokes, from here the entire, wheel of time is running, or the wheel of dharma, if you want to put it. So this is how the image is. It's there in animals, but not as an individual entity, but as soul of the species. In human beings, it begins to assume a conscious individuality, not the ego individuality, which is the frontal appearance, but behind it, the true spiritual individuality, if I want to put it. And after a point, this individuality becomes fully developed, that's when we are free beings. Then we can either withdraw from creation, or we can be in one of the higher planes, or in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, the possibility of coming back and fulfilling divine will in creation, which is why creation has been made. To multiply the delight of the divine many, many fold in multiple ways. Yes.